once again, and before I move on, maybe I have two things which I want to also support as well as tell. One, of course, being kind of the first presenter, it's easier for me because everybody is receptive. So I don't get so many questions, hopefully. The second thing is what he mentioned as a monster, and that reminds me of a concept which was very famous in Amazon, where they call it as a hippo, which is the highest paid person's opinion. So CEO is always the highest paid, and therefore he feels like the monster, he appears to people, so it's like a hippo. So that's a very interesting concept, and I completely share all this with you. Vikram, thanks for setting the stage. And like he mentioned a small story, I also have something to say to you. You know, if we talk about one example, I mean, it's a joke, you can say, which normally you get on the internet. So there was a first timer, a villager who was flying on an aircraft, and from, let's say, Ahmedabad to Delhi. And this gentleman was shown his place and seat number and everything. So he sat there. The moment the aircraft took over and everything was in order, and this guy just saw there are so many seats vacant in front of him, and so he therefore wanted to be in the front of the aircraft. So it's easy, it's more better, and you can see something, and you're more closer to the person who's driving the aircraft, or like the bus or whatever you call it. And then the crew member came, and she had not noticed this gentleman sitting on those seats, and therefore she asked, "Sir, can I see your boarding pass and all?" And then she saw the boarding pass, and she said, "No, this is not your seat. You have to go back and you have to sit on the other seat where you were already there." And he said, "No, I'm in a hurry, and I have to reach Delhi, and therefore I stay here. I don't go out." Then she was unsuccessful, and there was escalation as usual. What happens in the organizations, what happens to all of us. And then the co-pilot learned that our crew or the chief crew is not able to handle, so he went, he requested, he told, "Look, it's only business class, you can't sit here, you're not paid for it," and all that. That said, "No, it's all vacant and I have to be here, I will be there, I don't want to go back and I'll sit here. I'm in a hurry." Then this whole story came to the pilot, being the CEO of the aircraft at that point of time. He's the CEO in that sense, because he has all the controls, he has the maximum experience. And then the pilot said, "Okay, leave it to me, I have got some experience." So he went there, came out of the cockpit, he whispered something in the ear of this person, first time traveler, a villager. This guy immediately got up. He says, "Okay, I'll go back, sir." And he went back to his seat. So what happened? Everybody was shell-shocked. What did this guy do, the boss do? What we couldn't handle, and this guy was so adamant not to change his place. And then they asked, "What did you do?" He said, "I just told him, look, the front portion is not going to Delhi. You have to stay there if you want to get on at Delhi." And he simply understood only that. So sometimes when we are talking of, learning and development, it's important how do you handle the situation. It's not only, learning about some key skills or some, defined ways of learning. It's also something to do with what you call as the complexity of the situation or critical skills, or you can say the complexity of a state of situation which you have to handle. So now, let me take you further, and this is a little bit, just to set the context, like he said, I am going to talk more generally on the topic, because I thought, let me see how learning and development is important overall, and in the specific concept of a CEO. And therefore I took first to see what's happening, how did we develop from the historical perspective, a little bit on that. And then what exactly is driving you? Do you really want to learn? Do you really want to unlearn? Do you really want to do mistakes? Whatever you want to do. And who's driving you? Is it somebody who tells you what you should do, how you should be doing? And why are you doing given? Is there an internal force or is it an external motivation? So these are all the points which I thought are important for us to deliberate. And what is the value that you find in any proposition which is coming to you? Somebody tells you, please take it. Somebody tells you, this is awesome, this is very good. You have to finally decide what suits you as an individual, what suits you as an organization, what suits you in the circumstances you are. So there could be different opinions in this case, and therefore this is just to set the context. The role of a CEO, I say, and my example which I gave you, is like the voyager who knows where he is heading and what is the objective of the journey. And during this journey, there may be known and unforeseen challenges that have to be dealt with to reach the final destination. That's what happened with the pilot of the aircraft also, because that's not his job, to ask people to change their seat. In the present day business scenario, is adequately dynamic and challenging in terms of availability of capital as well as the competitive market that we see around us because of the globalization and many other factors that are known not to all of us. The only option where the potential exists for a CEO is to do something in the field of either technology or in the field of human resources. And these are the two factors that can be utilized as well as developed based on the requirement. And looking at the abundance availability of human resource in our country, the challenge will be to develop the skills of these intellectual minds to the current business needs. People come with varied experience, varied qualifications. The organization is one. Somebody comes from IIM, somebody comes from IIT, somebody comes from some B-grade engineering college, somebody from another college, and then that's what we are talking about, the freshers. And then there are others. So therefore, what's the objective of your journey? So going back to the historical thing, and ever since our evolution, mankind has worked towards improving and developing on the current state. What is today? We always work on how to improve it, and which essentially involves increasing the complexity to the next level, and through generations we find that it consistently continues to keep its course in the same direction. And looking at that from the primitive stage of the mankind, where the man did not know anything about how to plan, produce and provide, including, let's say, food, clothing, safety and shelter. Now we have graduated to mobile telephony, internet, cyber technology, cloud computing, and then we are talking of green and carbon credits. So each time there is a cultural, civil, military or industrial revolution, it leaves the people of that age or era completely baffled, stunned or outclassed and outnumbered. That's what exactly happens. So if you are not there in that structure of learning, understanding and knowing what needs to be done in those competence areas, then you will be always outclassed or outnumbered. And so therefore, learning is an integral part of life. Sometimes simplest of the things that one is undergoing through involve the process of learning or unlearning. That may not be attributed to structured learning. Most of the times, however, the act of passive learning or unlearning does take place. I'll support it with an example. It's like you reaching a new land or a place of habitat without much support, without any known people around, and then you start the process of familiarizing yourself with what is possible and what is not possible. You look for signals and messages. Supposing you are in a country where the language is not understood, let's say, or even understood, so you look for signals and messages of what is okay and works and what does not work. Typically the do's and don'ts, and then finding scope for making a place for yourself within those parameters, and we succeed if you are doing all the right things. About 5 years back, let's say, not many of us in India would have driven an automatic transmission vehicle. Do you agree? Automatic transmission vehicle? About 5 years back, not many of us have. And who were the first ones to have it? And we always felt highly comfortable when we were driving the manual transmission gear vehicle, because that's what we knew. We said, this is the best thing we have. And by the way, the CEOs were amongst the first ones to own these cars, as usual. obvious. Though all of them had drivers, however, they all have felt extremely possessive about the same and drove these on weekends to get a feel and hang of it. Was there a structured training involved? Maybe yes, maybe not. Because some drivers help their bosses to know the basics for how to drive that car. And in other cases, on the weekend, maybe just they took it on their own. So what it means is that, though it's a very mundane example that I am giving you, but still it was important to know the basics for a CEO. What it involves is to unlearn the established way of driving via manual flow shift gears to a new way of vehicle driving with different skill set. So that's what is happening now. So what do most CEOs need today is to follow a continuous learning path. May I check how much time? That's all? Okay, thank you very much. So if you look for a CEO, how do they do their development? They typically undergo a cycle of leadership skills builder in the form of classroom training, then they move on to action learning, which is another educational process where they work and learn together by tackling real issues and reflecting on their actions. And they acquire knowledge through actual practice rather than through traditional instruction methods. Nowadays, reverse mentoring is another interesting example of transition in the methods of learning and development for the C-level. In order to learn the effective usage of social media tools, who better than today's Gen Y can be a guru for you? That's what I also have to say. So this concept is catching up fast, and it helps in learning not only the required competency, but also provides an opportunity for the CEO to look at young executives as a sounding board, which may come up with more transparent, effective, and unbiased feedback on the leadership element. In addition, the best advantage that the CEO gets is what is the impact of the business decisions he or she is making on the employees. This also comes through the sounding board as a feedback to this person. The business cycles are undergoing tremendous change each time. The business has not only become extremely volatile, random, but also unstable and undoubtedly demanding. So, this supports the idea that powerful learning can occur at the boundaries of organizations as proposed by Wagner in his book, in his work on communities of practice, which is very relevant today with the advent of social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and so on, and which refers to action, reflection, and learning. What equally important in my view is unlearning, which necessarily involves separation from one's own self-concept as it has been culturally conditioned to conform to societal, functional, or organizational allegiances. In this context, learning to unlearn is vital. In the case of an individual, it can be termed as a mindset, and in the case of the organization, this is called as a culture. One is therefore to learn to break away from known ways of behavior of self and the organization dynamics to find answers leading to the core of the issue. The successful predictions of a stable form of business are over. Leave alone, even the business cycle predictability is no more a certainty. Hence, another important learning element is pertaining to innovation. And innovation management to develop the multipliers, to be working differently from tried and tested ways of approaching problems or producing goods and services. More and more CEOs are nowadays also preferring to undergo executive coaching in some form or the other, as they have recognized the critical importance of a coach or a facilitator. Someone who has the authority and responsibility of creating time and space for people to learn at the individual, group, and organization level. To conclude on this topic, I'd like to say that a well-trained and prepared army is ready for battle anytime, any place, any season. Developing available human resource is a boon to an organization. So there is no end for learning it begins with birth and continues throughout your life, which means from cradle